thank you for joining us today for another Wife Me, Mommy moment of the week. And we are here today with Dr. Z. How are you, Dr. Z?
I am so good. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes to
So,
the invitation. I'm so very excited. You are such a phenomenal woman. And I just admire your beauty, your grace, your teaching ability is like out of this world. And I'm just grateful for you being in my life. I got to know you several years ago, and I am just grateful for you being in my life. You do so many things, but today we're just going to talk about a few of the things in your life and share some of your story. So, can you tell us just about your early life, being single, and then transitioning into marriage with all of the goals and the plans and the dreams that you had? What was that transition like for you?
whew, well, first of all, thank you again. I know. I'm like, oh my gosh. Um, so singlehood, I was on a path to just fulfilling my passion for teaching. I've always had a love for learning, but I didn't always grow up loving how I was taught. And so from very early on, I was the kid that was in my room with stuffed animals that gave them names, and then I became like their teacher, and then I was them, and then I was the principal. So I always very early on kind of knew that I loved the process of learning and teaching, but I didn't always embrace how I was taught. And so once I finished undergrad, I knew that I wanted to go into teaching, and I was blessed to be able to get an opportunity to do that through a scholarship that I was given in Boston. And so I moved there, and I was on my path. I was enjoying the process of just learning what it meant to educate, and just really enjoying inspiring young people and really helping them to understand learning in a simplistic way, in the ways that I really needed to receive it as a kid. And so I just wanted to be creative, and it allowed me to do that. And so at that point, I wasn't really on a trajectory for marriage. I didn't have my heart set on getting married, although I desired to be married. But because of some of, my own past relationships, I was in that place where I was like, until you send them, Lord, I don't want them. So I just kind of said, I'm going to just do what you put in my hands to do, and then I'll keep doing it. And it became a very much a faith walk when it came to how I met my husband, and a dream that I had of him ministering in a play that I wrote for my students. He didn't meet me through a personal kind of relationship. He met me through business. And so through that transaction, I'm thinking, well, God, we just gonna do this business work. And the Lord had another plan. And so there was just a journey of thinking that once I transitioned to marriage, I would continue, doing the work that he had given me to do, which was to teach. And so I did do that. But then, of course, life has a way of shifting you, you know what I'm saying? And so by the time I got into my marriage, it was very clear to me that I was going to continue teaching. I just didn't know in what capacity. And at that time, I was just so happy that God had given me a sense of a purpose. Just in my singleness, I really felt like I spent time getting to know me. And so, because marriage will flip that whole script and get you to seeing some things you didn't know was there. And so
Oh,
as I'm sure you know. And so it was just good to have had that time in singleness to learn myself, and to really get a sense of what God was doing in me before marriage, because I would never have been ready for what unfolded in my marriage, and still wasn't ready. There was much to learn, but I thank God that he really set that passion in me for young people and learning early.
wow. You said so much in there that I want to expound on, Lord. But one important key thing that you mentioned was just learning yourself. and enjoying your singleness before you even got married. Because for me, much like you, I was not looking to get married when it actually started. The process of it actually started to happen for me. And I met my husband through business as well. So it
Wow.
was just a totally unexpected um, thing. And then, like you mentioned, life has a way, and God has a way. His plan supersedes what you thought your life would turn out like. So, early marriage and then transitioning into having kids and also teaching and pursuing your higher goal, what was all of that like for you? Because I know the early years of marriage can be difficult because you're already adjusting, you're getting to know your spouse. Then, when you add kids into it, what was that scenario like for you?
Yeah. So we waited 4 years, before we had our first child, which again, I'm glad because, just I never grew up kind of with a roommate other than my siblings, and so just being in the same space as someone who knows you very well is getting to know you. You're still working out that. And early on in my marriage, within the first week, first month rather, one of my best friends passed away in her sleep, and so it was like coming into this new experience of a new state, a new, my husband, learning him and getting to know me as a wife and all the things that I did not know. And, not really having that training, growing up, coming out of a divorced home. So I didn't really have that template of marriage. And so walking into marriage was very new, very different for me, very unlearning of the things that I had gone through being raised as a single, with a single mom. And so there was a lot to work through. But then on top of that, I had grief. And so I was, on one hand, trying to figure out how do I be happy about my marriage, and then also go through this traumatic experience that just occurred. And so I just couldn't imagine all those things catapulted with children. Like I really needed to work through that process of learning me within the marriage now, and what is my identity in this marriage, God. And so the Lord really had to show me myself in the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of purge out some of those things that were not going to benefit me, as a woman of God and as a wife. And then by the time the children came along, the Lord knows what's in your cup. So our first daughter, she came to us, with some severe issues with allergies and eczema and things that we had no clue about. And so I can only imagine if I had started off in marriage and then had that at the onset, it may have been too much. And I thank God that He knows what we can handle. And so by the time the 4 years came and we began to have children, I got kind of thrown into this world of trying to be an advocate for my child and not really understanding how to work through what was going on with her, and at the same time teaching full time. And so we had a major shift in our relationship in my marriage, because my husband was working full time, I was working full time, but our daughter needed more of us. And so we were at doctor's office 2 to 3 times a week, trying to just understand why she was not taking in nursing, and some of the things that she was getting, she was just projecting up. And so we just didn't know what was going on. And so my husband actually shifted and came home to take care of her for the first year, and I was working full time, and he would work on the weekends. He left his job in IT, and as you know, he joined the band with your husband. And so it was a very unusual time, because we were trying to figure it out. We were just trying to find out what was the best course for our daughter, on top of bills still due, stuff still coming in. And I was in school at the same time, full time in a doctorate program. And so it was a lot of juggling, and really, to be honest, just really God's grace, because I can't say that at that time I had the wherewithal, kind of from a place of understanding and knowledge, to know how to respond all the time. And there were days when I didn't have the answer and I was crying, and so I was trying to find my place as a wife, as a mom, as an educator. And it was some hard times in the beginning. There really was. And it taught me how to lean into God in ways that I hadn't before, because I never had that scenario.
Well, can you expound more on that? Just finding your place as a woman, because I know when you feel like you're a woman when you get married, and then I feel like once you get married and start experiencing more things, like I don't feel like I became a woman until like some years into my marriage and me having kids. Like that to me brought a different level of maturity for me. Like I feel like when I was not married, I was a woman, but a bit of a girl in a sense. And I feel like when I got married, there was a different level of maturity required because so many things get thrown at you from the right and from the left. So, what did you learn about yourself as a woman while you were experiencing all of these things?
To be honest, I learned true submission to God. I, for so long, thought I knew. I, for so long, had this idea of what my life would be like. And, there was a part of me that was very guarded, even in coming into marriage, just because of past relationships and me not having that template. And so I thought that I would come in with a kind of script, an agenda for how things would work. Even the way that I came off of my job, when the Lord brought me off of my job, God is so gracious because he knows the things that we will lean towards, and it's all a setup. He knew that I was getting my doctorate and that, that I hope would help the money situation and propel me to getting more money. And then I would start a business, and then I'm going to do workshops, and I'm going to travel. And I was doing some of that before I got married. So I was thinking, surely this is the path. But the Lord brought me home because of my daughter, but I had my son shortly thereafter, 16 months apart. So here it is. We've got two kids. My husband looking at me like, okay, yeah, I was home that first year, boo, but something got to change. Something has to shift. And so I thought, hey, I will just, put them in care. We had a village of people that, were there for my family. And so I said, we'll provide for them there. And then I'll just go and do me kind of thing, right? And the Lord was like, no. Like there's another plan that I have. And so it humbled me, first of all, because I thought I knew, and then it also showed me that you can lean on you all day long and you're going to come up short, that you really have to lean into the Lord and his plan to get just even the instruction on how to be in this world of wife and mom and whatever else gets layered on that. So it taught me humility. It taught me submission to God, but it also taught me that God has an order, and that order doesn't change because the culture changed. That order doesn't change because you don't grow up a certain way, that God will always get you back to his order. And so he was reestablishing my home, and he was showing me that, yes, I planted you here and I've given you gifts and I've put things inside of you. But that man that you married, oh yeah, he's the head. And there are things that I have to show him about what it means to be that, but you got to move out the way. And right now you in the way. And so he had to really teach me how to be pliable and what to do on my face and on my knees in prayer so that he could raise my husband up and reposition our family. And we have watched and witnessed a complete overhaul of the ideas that I came into marriage with, because we said yes to God, your order is the way, and that didn't come without sacrifice. It didn't come without financial strain, because I was the one making more at that time. And the Lord showed us, because right after I finished my degree, I was pregnant, 7 months pregnant with my son when I finished. And I finished in the year of 2013, 2014, he was born. That was when I graduated. And I came off my job at the end of that year. So here it is that I end one thing thinking it's going to propel me into something else, but the loans are still coming, the bills are still due when I came off of my job. So it was God taught me as a woman what it means to surrender and what it means to really trust him, not just trust him with myself, but trust him with my husband, trust him with my family, trust him with what doctors we're going to have to go with, who to fire, who to hire, everything became susceptible to faith. And I hadn't experienced that in my singlehood like I did, because in your singlehood, you risky. You can do some things because it's all on you. It's like, oh, I can live with that decision. I can go through that and live with it. But when you're married, the weight of it, is like insurmountable if you take it on for yourself. And I did for the first few years. I tried to bear that weight, and God's like, you're not capable of taking on that weight. So you better learn how to bring it to me so that I can show you the strength that you have. And so that it was a complete unlearning of what it meant to be a woman, what it meant to submit, what it meant to surrender. And it's changed everything in my life.
Amen. That's good, right? That's good right there because, as you mentioned, there's a lot that you have to walk through yourself in building your relationship with God. And we go from faith to faith. And I feel like my level of faith, my level of understanding of who God was, my relationship with God was greatly, um, how can I say, it grew the
Yes.
more that, you know what I'm saying, throughout the years of my being married and um, dealing with issues with my children, dealing with issues with my husband, just all the things that you deal with as a wife and mom. You're trying to be the glue that holds it all together and be there for everyone. And like you said, you really don't have, there's not a manual for it.
That's
You have
right.
no clue
That's
what
right.
to do, how to fix it. I've called my mom several times and she'll be like, Shelly, you got to put your big girl panties on. And I'm like, huh?
Exactly.
Where are those? Where are they? Where are those at?
Exactly.
How do I find them?
Yeah.
Because you're learning so much just about
Yeah.
yourself, about your spouse, about, as you said, how to advocate for your children. It's just a lot rolled into one, and your relationship with God is definitely strengthened.
Absolutely.
Definitely realize that you get to know who He really is. And God has revealed Himself to me, I know, in a lot of different ways. And in what ways did He start to reveal Himself to you as your relationship with Him grew?
That's a great question. So he revealed himself to me in my prayer time. He increased, my hunger for him increased. And so one of the things that I had to realize was that sometimes as women, we can sensationalize our roles because we want to feel like it's value. The job of a mother will never get the credit that is due. It really won't. But it's one of those things that the Lord was showing me, that your gifts and the things that I've planted in you, you thought that they were for this external experience. You thought that it was about this calling on your life and this extended purpose. And what he showed me is that there are weapons and there are things that I've seen happen in my prayer time with God that have transformed my house. Like, there's enough that happens with having kids without you having to add on the extra glam and the fame and I'm not trying to go for the Mom of the Year award. I'm just not. There's enough that I have to contend with just from having children, just from being married. So what he had to show me was, you're looking for this extended thing, but I've already placed it within you for your children. And so I kept looking outside of myself for some way to validate. And God was like, I've already validated you. And the sheer fact that I've given you them, I've already equipped you with them. And so he has been able to speak and really reveal who he is in me in my time on my face. And I thought it had to be this external performance. And it's caused me to care less about sensationalizing and making things so big and so public and so, this, so that you can get affirmed, and to simply recognize the power that I have as a woman of God to bring peace in my home. I've seen God move in healing in my husband's body through my time of intercession and prayer. I ain't gone out. I ain't, blow the horn, go crazy, about what's going to happen, which I can sometimes do, thinking that I have to do something. And just simply in my time with God, he's revealed to me that I'm a healer, and you can intercede in your home. You can intercede for your children. You can watch my faith activated through your prayer life. And so it changed what I want to hear from him daily. Like I desire to hear from him in a way where before my busyness superseded my ability to hear. And so through that, through my time with family, like hearing God uses my children. Like I mean, there are lessons that I have gained from just being in my children's face, like just things that come out of their mouths and the things that they say. I just, where did that come from? It's like, God's like, yeah, that's me. I needed you to hear that through this child, you know? And so just being more present has allowed me to hear him through my children. You know what I'm saying? It's caused me to go, you talk about your mom, it's caused me to go back to my mom and repent. Mom, I put you through some stuff. I am so sorry. Like, you know, because as a single mom, she bore the weight of everything, you know, and I came through some rebellious times with my mom. And so it caused me to have a heart and compassion for her and what she had to go through in silence many times, you know. And I'm a very vocal person. I'm a person that I have to get out my thoughts, like through journaling, through prayer, and my mom was not that. And so it's caused me to really appreciate the fact that God hears me because I've got to get it out, you know. And so it's just brought me closer to desiring to hear him. And I'm not just in a desiring way, but in a necessity. Like all the things I have to contend with in my day, I need you. I need to hear your voice. I need to know if I'm picking up something that you didn't put. God gives us the grace for what he gives us to do. But I think sometimes we pick it up and put it in our hands. God, like, I didn't give you that. You did that. So I've got to get wisdom on, should I be picking this up? God, is this what you put in my hands, or is this something I done picked up? And I'm frustrated. I'm stressed out. You know, my marriage is in turmoil because I took on things you never put in my hand. And so it's just made me want to lean more into him and less into my own thinking and my own emotions and things like that, which are very real. I mean, I go through the whole gamut of them.
So did you find, like, for me, I know when I was single, my prayer life was different in the sense that I could do whatever I wanted to. Like if I wanted to go to 5 a.m. prayer, I could get up and go. If I wanted to, I'd fast all the time, just do all these different things. Once I started taking on kids, I found that I thought that prayer life had to look a certain way. Like, okay, I have to go down for 2 hours a day.
Not happening. not happening.
I have to be in this specific place.
Yes.
My prayer cloth.
Right.
But I found, my mom always says something that is funny, but it's true. She says, God ain't crazy. And I used to laugh when she used to say it, but I was like, you know what? He's not. I feel like we place these expectations, and God actually knows what our real life is like.
Absolutely.
Put these expectations on, okay, well, it has to look like this, it has to look like that. So did you find freedom in how you pray, what time of day? You know what I mean? Like, it's for me, it's just throughout the day. It's when I get time, because sometimes the kids are just up all throughout the night.
Amen.
And I may not can get up at 5. You know? So I had to be like set free from the mentality that I was doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that sense?
Absolutely. I had to be set free from that, from the structure and the systematic way in which we're told to kind of do things. And that's what I was saying. There would be days that the Holy Spirit would check me just on my attitude when I'm schooling my kids. It wouldn't be because I was laid before him for 2 hours. It'd be because in that moment I realized I got an attitude and I'm being sharp toward them. And I would have to take that occasion to repent. I don't have to go back to my prayer closet and repent right then and there. God, forgive me. And to my kids, Mommy, short circuit today, forgive me. But it also showed me how valuable it is that I get him, how important that time is to me. And I think sometimes for me, it was a dying, to be honest, to some of the things that were consuming my life. And then I say, but God, I don't have time. So I think both things are true. Like sometimes we can overload our lives with things where there is no room for God. And then other times we can only look that God can only show up in one way. And God's like, neither of the two are true. So I had to let go of some of those things. Like I don't need to be looking at everybody else's life all day, AKA social media. Like live your life. And so God's like, you can't say you didn't have time for me if your time is consumed by things that are a distraction. And so I had to, for that first year that I came home, I literally was not active on things because I was really like, God, you gonna have to show me what I'm supposed to do with these kids, because I am not a sit down all day, be in the same house all day, and especially not with some little ones. That just, I was like, look, I thought, no, God, these babies, like, what you want me to do? And so he really had to show me those things throughout my day. Some days it'd be nursing and I'm falling asleep. You know what I'm saying? And my only word is, Lord, strength. Give me the strength, God. I just need strength, you know? So sometimes you don't get a full out. And that for me, journaling was that processing time, you know? So it's not necessarily always going to look like being on my face. To me, it's just being able to get my thoughts out on paper, releasing things to God through journaling, videoing. That's how I started my YouTube, was because I was like, hey, I get to chronicle these lessons and I can't write a book. I can't do a blog every day. So we're just going to talk about it out loud through putting the camera on. And so those are ways that I've been able, but then we know we can worship God in our shower. We can worship him in the car while we're taking the kids somewhere. There would be times that the kids were in activities and I was like, oh, Jesus, I will get to hear voices for 30 minutes. Go ahead, kids. You know, I put them in the activity and it would be my time just to listen to my own breath. You know, I may not be saying a word. It may just be allowing the wind to blow, just allowing me to hear my own self for a moment, because we need that as moms, because we take on so much and that it can all get, you know, clouded in there. And so just times where I can hear my breath, I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
Well, let me ask you this. What led you to, because I was talking to my mom about this, you know, how everyone reads Proverbs 31 about the virtuous woman, and how she took care of her home. You know, her home life was first. She took care of her husband. She took care of her family, but she also worked with her hands. So what sparked I know that you wanted to start your own business, but how did that transition with you now being at home? How did you decide how to go about it from home?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yes. So initially, like I said, I knew I was having a boy because I had so much energy when I was pregnant with my son. And so because I knew that we were transitioning off of my 9 to 5, which was teaching, I'd already had in my mind, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to try to, you know, use my gifts and my services to go to schools and help other teachers and other people, you know, to learn some of the things I had gained along the way. Well, that didn't work according to God's plan. So it got me home, but it didn't get me. I still did a couple of workshops, but not nearly enough to sustain anything, especially not the income I come out of. And so while I was at home, I had designed a website, still pregnant. I, you know, tried to do all the things that you think you're knowing to do. And it was a process because none of that yielded what I, in my mind, thought. And it was one day that I was trying to find a school for my daughter. I was on this track to, because she was getting up into her age, about to be 4, and I said, if I find a pre-K program that will accommodate her diet, you know, then I can go back out and spend more time doing what I do in terms of business. But every door that I tried to knock on was closed when it came to either they wanted me to pay too much, or they were not willing to give her meals to accommodate her diet, or I would have to still pay the full tuition and they would not offset it based on the fact that now I got to provide her meals every day. So there was just doors that kept closing. And one day I finally said, okay, what am I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to do if I'm going to stay home with her, like, and do this? What am I supposed to do to keep contributing? Because we want to contribute to our homes, you know? And so that day was a day that I read an old journal entry from way back before being married. I was single, and I was writing this letter to God about my unborn seed. And in that, he said, in the prayer that I asked for God through my journal, I said, for everything that I give to other people's children, give me the capacity to do that and more for my own. And so I'm boohooing when I'm reading this journal entry, because I'm just like, Lord, is this you telling me? Like, I'm supposed to be here with them and investing in them. So what God did for me business-wise was, when I surrendered to my place in the home and fulfilling what God asked me to do as a mom to my children, what he showed me is that my gifts are not separate from me. That the things that he planted in me, that he was going to make provision for those things to operate in my home and beyond. So what happened is that I found a program that I was bringing my kids to, and we enrolled in it, and I would school them during the week, and we'd go there once a week. And by the next year, the Lord opened a door for me to then become the owner of that business. The woman that was in it no longer wanted to do it. And so I stepped into that position, not wanting it at all, just doing what I do with my kids. And the Lord showed me, okay, this is the path and I'm taking you. So then from being just a tutor in that position, I then became the director, the owner of that business. And now what God was showing me is that those same teaching gifts, those same gifts to inspire people and encourage and equip people, I now get to hire moms that can be able to add to their households. I now get to do the things I love by helping equip other parents that they can equip, they can teach their kids. And so all those gifts that I was using in the classroom, I put this boundary line to say it can only be used in that way. And God had to really show me that you took that first step of just saying yes. And now I'm going to continue to unravel all these blessings that include your gift in them. And I think sometimes we think they're separate. We think that I'm a mom and then this is what I do over here. And God's like, it all works for the good, you know? And so that moment that I surrendered, which was hard, it began to open up a door that God could show me that everything that I desired still came to pass. It just didn't come the way I thought.
Wow. That's really, really good. And I agree, because I know that through working with or having kids, a lot of what I was thinking my life would be like and how things would roll out, like my kids are the biggest inspiration for probably every book that I already have written.
Yes. And yes, for the book. Yes.
But like, just God expounds what he's already given you. Like a while ago, he told me that wealth was in my hands, because I kept saying, what can I do? Because I am a full-time stay-at-home mom.
That's
You know,
right.
I and travel, but I don't do that all the time. You know, I'm here and I love it, you know, but at the same time, I'm like you said, as a mom and a wife, you still want to contribute somehow to your home. And you know that God didn't place all these things in you for no reason. So just going throughout life, you know, the kids inspired me so much, and God showed me that what I've given you is still there. This is how you're going to use it. You know, like you said, you look to all the external
Mm-hmm.
things. And I think a lot of people do, but God kind of restructures that way of thinking and is like, okay, here you go. I gave you these little bitties and you start with them, right?
That's right. That's right.
They're your first, you evangelize them first.
That's right. Yes.
Before
Yes.
you go teach and
Mm-hmm.
preach, you evangelize these
That,
kids, you know? So
mm-hmm.
God
That's right,
definitely,
though, because they're our most challenging audience. Like, if you can
yes,
get through to your baby, if you can get something past them, you know Jesus is in it. You're like, yes, God, you are doing this thing, because we want to get that, like I said, that validation from the world. God, like, try it on your kids. Try that out right here. You're like, oh, okay, it's not as good as I thought.
God definitely brings you in and it's like, okay.
Yes.
So, as my mom always states, that your first ministry is your home. it goes from there. God grows you from there, but he wants to see how faithful you are over what he gives you already. So I'm so glad that you talked about that. I want to talk about your level of teamwork with your husband, just in all the things that you all do creatively. How do you guys balance it all? How important is teamwork to you in your household?
So I think first of all, when I got married, when you see something that you don't want, it kind of can motivate you to establish what you do want. And so in the short span of time that I did live with my mother and my father, in the short span of time that I did have that relationship of what a marriage looks like, it wasn't positive. So I knew that I had to have, first of all, someone that God had sent me. Because if Z chose, I knew I would choose. We tend to go toward the direction of what we've seen. And it's sad to admit that sometimes, but our habits come after us. The pattern of our lives, short of being delivered and short of being set free from it, you will repeat what you've seen. So I knew that wanted to be free from those cycles and to be able to forgive in those areas that were most hard for me, which dealt with my dad. So that was the first step. And then the second step was I knew I had to have a home of peace. Like that was critically important to me. And so I set out when I got married to say, how do I establish peace in my home? Like I don't want this unnecessary friction. Sure, there's going to be arguments. That's marriage. There are going to be disagreements. There are going to be things that you bump heads with because you're two different people coming and trying to build something as one. But peace was very important to me. And so in the beginning, even though I was still learning my husband, I sought to find ways to establish peace in our home, from the environment that he walked into when he came off of his job from a long day, from trying not to be that nag because I was that, here go my list, can you fulfill this, and so the teamwork first came, I have to be honest, from us both recognizing that we are friends and not foes, that we are not in this to be enemies of each other. And sometimes because you know me so well, you know the exact button to press, you know how to irk that nerve, it can feel like you're an enemy. But we stay in a posture of let's maintain friendship over all things. And so there are times when in marriage we might not agree, but we'll still laugh as friends. You know what I mean? And so that tone has really helped us when it came to teamwork. I really appreciate the fact that my husband is also a man of humility. And so he never presented as I'm the man and this is what that look like. And, you're going to submit, that he never had that. That wasn't of his nature. And so that's why I said God had to choose, because I knew that I could have very well fallen into that. And so because of that, we would talk very early on about our strengths and weaknesses. My husband has a patience unlike none other, and so there are times when his patience helps me to get in check. You know what I'm saying? And so the things that he's shown me that he is willing to wait on, it helped me to not be so over anxious about, I want this, I got to get this, or, this, that, and the other. It was very clear early on. I have the gift of administration. I got spreadsheets for everything. What we going to eat, when we going to sleep, how we going to manage. So it became very clear that, okay, if that's my strength, then when it comes to bills and when it comes to paying things and when it comes to setting appointments and doctor's appointments, okay, Z, that's going to be your gig. I abhor laundry. My husband loves to do laundry in a very systematic, almost military way. And so, okay, that's your strength. So when we're both home and he's able to do that in the beginning, that took the weight off of me. You know what I'm saying? And so I think what we really recognized early is that God brought us together because he knew that there were things in us that was needed for the other. And we do better to walk in the direction of those things than to go and buck up against it. And that will fortify our marriage and keep peace in our home. And so I really do honor his strengths, and I believe that he honors mine. And those areas of weakness, it's caused us both to have to come up in because we honor each other's strengths. So that has helped with teamwork. When my husband comes home, the kids want to play. They want that becomes an issue a little bit for me because I'm like, it's bedtime. but you know, they want to play and they want to be with daddy. But I can appreciate the fact that he will still step up and put them to bed and say their prayers with them and go through that. It's not like, okay, I've come from a long day of work, you go do that. You know, he still spends that time and makes that effort to be present with them. And so I thank God that very early we tried to deal with our strengths and our weaknesses and see what's the best that we can give to this marriage.